Hello, my dear students. Have a nice day to all. Today I am here to teach you the third lesson from your English textbook, First Flight. The chapter, Two Stories About Flying, has two parts. The first story is His First Flight by Liam O'Flaherty, and we are going to learn that story today. His First Flight by Liam O'Flaherty is an account of a young bird that is afraid to fly for the first time. The theme of this story is having courage and self-confidence. It's about a seagull who is on its stage of learning how to fly. It also deals with the theme of how to overcome fears and how we can achieve success through repeated trial and error method. Let us begin the chapter. The young seagull was alone on his sledge. His two brothers and his sister had already flown away the day before. He had been afraid to fly with them. Somehow, when he had taken a little run forward to the brink of the ledge and attempted to flap his wings, he became afraid. The great expanse of sea stretched down beneath, and it was such a long way down, miles down. He felt certain that his wings would never support him. So he bent his head and ran away back to the little hole under the ledge where he slept at night. Even when each of his brothers and his little sister, whose wings were far shorter than his own, ran to the brink, flapped their wings, and flew away, he failed to muster up courage to take that plunge which appeared to him so desperate. His father and mother had come around, calling to him shrilly, upbraiding him, threatening to let him starve on his ledge unless he flew away. But for the life of him, he could not move. Now let's see the explanation of this paragraph. This story is about a young seagull. The seagull is a bird that lives near the sea, and it has short legs, long wings, and white grey feathers. Now this seagull is all alone on a ledge. It is at that stage of life where he has to learn to fly. All his younger siblings, despite their shorter wings, flew fearlessly the previous day. But this young seagull was afraid to fly with them. He just made an attempt to fly by running forward to the brink of the ledge and flapped his wings. But he got terrified by the vast sea that stretched beneath the cliff. And he felt that his wings would never support him, and so he could never fly. Then he ran back to the little hole under the ledge and he slept there. His younger siblings managed to take their first flight, though their wings were shorter than the seagull. But still, he could not gather courage to fly. His parents came around him and they were calling him, and they even scolded him for not trying again. They threatened him and said that he will die of hunger if he doesn't make an attempt to fly. But he could not even move from there as he had no courage to fly. Next paragraph. That was 24 hours ago. Since then, nobody had come near him. The day before, all day long, he had watched his parents flying about with his brothers and sister, perfecting them in the art of flight, teaching them how to skim the waves and how to dive for fish. He had, in fact, seen his older brother catch his first herring and devour it, standing on a rock while his parents circled around, raising a proud cackle. And all the morning the whole family had walked about on the big plateau midway down the opposite cliff, taunting him with his covered eyes. Let's see the meaning of this next paragraph. Now, he had been alone for a day. His parents and siblings left him 24 hours ago. Since then, they did not come near him. The previous day, he had watched his parents helping his siblings to master the art of flying. They were diving for food. He could also see his older brother even caught his first fish, and he was eating it speedily. His parents were happy to see this, and they were flying around him and they were celebrating that event. So that morning, his parents were taunting him, teasing him from the opposite cliff for being a coward. Now the third paragraph. The sun was now ascending the sky, blazing on his ledge that faced the south. He felt the heat because he had not eaten since the previous nightfall. He stepped slowly out to the brink of the ledge and standing on one leg with the other leg hidden under his wing, he closed one eye, then the other, and pretended to be falling asleep. Still, they took no notice of him. He saw his two brothers and his sister lying on the plateau, dozing with their heads sunk into their necks. His father was preening the feathers on his white back. Only his mother was looking at him. She was standing on a little high hump on the plateau, her white breast thrust forward. Now and again she tore at a piece of fish that lay at her feet, and then scraped each side of her beak on the rock. The sight of the food maddened him. How he loved to tear food that way, scraping his beak now and again to wet it. Now the sun was rising, and he was feeling the heat more because you know that he had not eaten anything since the night before. So he came out of the ledge and he stood on one leg with the other leg hidden under his wing, and he pretended to sleep from there. But his parents did not give any attention on him. He could see his siblings who were sleeping there on another cliff. His father was cleaning his feathers with his beak, and his mother was standing on another plateau eating a fish. While eating, his mother was even looking at him. She tore the fish and started eating it. And now and again she was sharpening her beak by scraping each side of her beak on the rock. The seagull got mad on seeing the fish because he was very hungry, and he loved to tear the fish and scrape his beak as the mother was doing there. Next paragraph. Ga, 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 he cried, begging her to bring him some food. Ga kola, she screamed back derisively. But he kept calling plaintively, and after a minute or so he uttered a joyful scream. His mother had picked up a piece of the fish and was flying across to him with it. He leaned out eagerly, tapping the rock with his feet, trying to get nearer to her as she flew across. But when she was just opposite to him, she halted, her wings motionless, the piece of fish in her beak almost within the reach of his beak. He waited a moment in surprise, wondering why she did not come nearer. And then, maddened by hunger, he dived at the fish. With a loud scream, he fell outwards and downwards into space. Then a monstrous terror seized him, and his heart stood still. He could hear nothing, but it only lasted a minute. The next moment he felt his wings spread outwards. The wind rushed against his breast feathers, then under his stomach, and against his wings. He could feel the tips of his wings cutting through the air. He was not falling headlong now. He was soaring gradually downwards and outwards. He was no longer afraid. He just felt a bit dizzy. Then he flapped his wings once, and he soared upwards. Ga, ga, ga. Ga kola, his mother swooped past him, her wings making a loud noise. He answered her with another scream. Then his father flew over him screaming. He saw his two brothers and his sister flying around him, curveting and banging and soaring and diving. Then he completely forgot that he had not always been able to fly, and commended himself to dive and soar and curve, shrieking shrilly. He was near the sea now, flying straight over it, facing straight out over the ocean. He saw a vast green sea beneath him, with little ridges moving over it, and he turned his beak sideways and cawed amusedly. Now let's see the meaning of these paragraphs. He cried in hunger, and he begged his mother to give him some food. His mother screamed back angrily, but he kept crying. Soon he gave a joyful scream because he saw that his mother was flying towards him with a piece of fish. He got much excited as she came nearer, and thus he leaned forward to get the food. But suddenly the mother seagull stopped just opposite to him. She was not very far from him. And at this time, the young seagull, who got so excited for food, he dived at the fish. For a moment, he forgot that he was afraid to fly. But what happened to the seagull? The very next moment, he fell down from the cliff towards the sea. For a moment, he was in a shock, and his heart stood still out of terror. But that fear lasted only for a moment. The next moment, his little feathers opened as he was falling down. He could feel the wind against his breast feathers, stomach, and his wings. He could feel himself cutting through the air. He could feel that he was flying now. He was not at all afraid now. Just as he was feeling little nervous, a little giddy, his mother accompanied him there. Then the whole family came towards him. They all were screaming out of excitement. Thus, the whole family was celebrating the victory of this young seagull. Then he completely forgot that once he was afraid to fly. Soon he felt confidence in his flight and he started doing various movements of flight. He flew straight over the sea and he could see the greenery and the mountains below him. He was screaming out of great joy and he was celebrating his victory by diving, soaring, curveting, and shrieking loudly. Now let's see the concluding paragraph. His parents and his brothers and sister had landed on this green flooring ahead of him. They were beckoning to him, calling shrilly. He dropped his legs to stand on the green sea. His legs sank into it. He screamed with fright and attempted to rise again, flapping his wings. But he was tired and weak with hunger, and he could not rise. Exhausted by the strange exercise, his feet sank into the green sea, and then his belly touched it, and he sank no farther. He was floating on it, and around him his family was screaming, praising him, and their beaks were offering him scraps of dogfish. He had made his first flight. Now, the meaning of this paragraph. Then he saw that his parents, his brothers and sister, they all had landed on the sea. They were giving signal to him to do the same action. But when he tried to land on the sea water, at first he got scared and he tried to rise up by flapping his wings. But he was extremely tired and weak out of hunger, and he did little flight also. Thus, when his feet sank into the water, he could feel his belly touch the water. The next moment he realized that he was floating in water. The family was screaming out of joy, and they all celebrated his first flight and gave him food as a praise. Finally, the young seagull had overcome the fear and had made his first flight. Thus, this story proves that, through repeated trials and errors, we can achieve success in our life. We can overcome the fears, and thus, we can come to the path of success. Okay, that may be possible after a lot of trials and errors, but, at last, definitely we will find success in our path. Hope that you all understood this well. Please read the chapter from your textbook. Until we meet again with a new chapter, take care. Bye.